could be for cutting grass.
We ready, Ryan?
Yep.
All right, we'll call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Clark County Election Board. Today is Monday, June the 30th. It is about 10 till 5. Present is myself, Andrew Steele, Mr. Tony Singleton, and Mr. Ryan Lynch, and election worker Angela Cornett. We also have some members of the public. If you all just want to sign in, I think that'll be fine. We don't need to take a roll call. We have meeting minutes to approve. This is all old business or previous business items. We have meeting minutes to approve, which we'll get to. I wanted to take a quick second before we moved on. Angela is sitting here where usually Joanne Gohagen joins us, but Joanne's not going to be able to do minutes for us anymore. But I wanted to at least put on the record how much I thanked and appreciated the work that she did for us. She was here for several years, and it wasn't easy. And I'm going to miss not having her next to me because she was fun to talk to, but so is Angela. I just wanted to put that on the record, just acknowledging Joanne and her service to our board. We have May the 19th and May the 20th. Those are the meeting minutes. Is that right, Ryan?
Mm-hmm. Those are ones, yeah.
We can, yeah.
Make a motion to adopt.
Yeah. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Then we have next agenda amendments and approval. I'm not familiar with what we've got on that, Ryan.
Just if you guys had anything that wasn't on here now that you guys
No.
wanted to add, we're good.
Yeah. The public comment, are we opening this up? What do you want on public comment, Ryan?
Whatever you.
Oh, just on the minutes?
Yeah, I just put it on here like we
I'll
normally do.
just reserve the public comment until after, because we did get some information back from Mr. Klutz regarding the campaign finance update. And I think that that's probably the reason why you guys are mostly here. Moving on to the new business. There is a new campaign finance law that went into effect on July 1st. Have we received any kind of updates from IED, any new publications or anything?
They don't have any publications. Actually, they've told the clerks that we're not required to notify the candidate or the elected officials, but I can't not notify them.
Right.
Doesn't seem right.
It seems reasonable.
Most people don't continuously pay attention to every law that's put into effect. But we have gotten in contact to the law. I posted it online. I think some of you shared it and have called about it. Is that they changed they added to the definition of candidate to include elected official. So with that, any elected official that makes more than $5,000 is required by law to keep their CFA1, their campaign committees, open during the duration of their entire term
in office.
in office. So
Makes a lot of sense.
we had a few that had disbanded legally, like they were allowed to, and we're just we're starting to get those in and get them filed in here. And
I'm assuming judges were exempted from that since it's,
nope, they are.
They've got to keep a committee open.
They've got to keep a committee. They are elected just like the rest of them. They haven't said anything about it.
99.9% of the time, it's just going to require them to just update what's in their bank account.
Right.
So if they're not spending any money during their term, there shouldn't be that much of a change.
Right.
Now, I appreciate that. That seems to be a common sense addition.
But we have contacted everyone that is outside of the requirements for that, and we're starting to get some of them to come in and fill them out. So it's
Good.
at least they're done.
Is there any? I have not read the law. It goes into effect
It officially goes into effect July 1st, tomorrow.
And usually we get the updates with our training materials from Indiana Election Division. So usually I just wait for them to send me the new book or the supplement that goes in the back. Has anybody else got any comments they want to add about the new law or anything?
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah. And hopefully its application will be straightforward, but we will find out.
So are there any penalties if they don't do it? Is anyone gonna follow up or gonna make them enforce it? Or is it another law with really no teeth in it?
Sure. So, just like normally, the law says that if they don't file with it until or before noon on the deadline, which in this case is July 11th, then they can be imposed with fines of $50 a day up to $1,000.
So who's gonna monitor that and fine them?
Well, we will monitor it. The board is the one who decides on the
Yeah.
fine.
We'll have to, in order to issue fines, we'd have to have a full hearing to find that there's a violation, take evidence, and then make a ruling on it. We'll keep track of it at the same time. I fully expect the public and the other candidates to continue to do as we've always done, track it. I can't think of anything else. That's really the only other change that I know of to the CFA, but hopefully, hopefully moving forward, everybody will get the picture. And there are some that are closed, but a lot of them just stay open because everybody expects they're going to run for re-election or something.
Most of them that disband just didn't have to remember to fill out the picture.
New business, our election board meetings, you may have noticed, are now being recorded. We've got the camera there. Are we able to stream this?
We will. We'll be able to stream it live. I'm still waiting for the software approval.
Cool.
It'll either be on another website or on YouTube, one of the two.
And this microphone, I guess, is powerful enough it picks up everybody in the room, hopefully.
It has a 20-foot radius
20-foot
and
radius.
360 degrees.
So, technology hopefully will help us with this and also make it a little bit more accessible so that if you guys are not able to make it, you know where to find us, and hopefully make it a little bit easier for people to know what's going on with our work. Anybody want to add a comment on that?
I think we should put something cool behind you.
Well,
Camera now.
that might not be in the budget yet.
I'm actually waiting for a quote for that.
Yeah.
And we're accepting donations for it too.
Somebody with a CNC machine could cut us out a nice big seal of the state of Indiana.
Or the county logo here.
Yes, the county logo. It's a little plain, but oh well. Appreciate it. We'll move on to the campaign finance complaint update. We received an email back from Mr. Klutz based on our request for bank statements. In our last meeting, you all brought it to our attention that basically the documentation, we can't verify that it's untrustworthy, the receipts. So I'll turn it over to Ryan to give us the update because he has taken the step to reach Mr. Klutz and the law firm that's representing PACS to give us a little bit more of an update, Ryan.
Sure. So basically, the only update that I have is I sent an email requesting what the board had requested with the 2023 committee campaign finance for the bank statements, like you said. And their response basically was they're wanting to they want to understand the board's reasoning for the request and a more detailed explanation as to how bank statements will assist the board in reaching a decision on the pending complaint. They said they want to be, forthcoming, but they just want to understand how it will benefit the board to this point. It says they like to understand the rationale for the request.
I think pretty clear from our meetings how it benefits our decision-making process. It's basically just the transparency that we want to see. The main issue of the complaint, I think, is just trustworthiness of the documentation, veracity of the documentation, the receipts that we received. I think it was Alice that raised the issue that this could have been just generated as a Google document. And so I think it would assist the board, obviously, if we were able to truly look at what their accounts were putting in and putting out based on what their filings show us. And that where they're spending, we're hoping that that's going to be backed up by what they filed on their CFAs. The touchy part is there is necessarily confidential information in those bank statements that we cannot reveal to the public. So we're going to have to ask them to redact tax identification numbers and social security numbers, personal addresses of individuals, anything that might be contained in some of those bank records. And because if it comes to us, I'm going on basically what you received back from IED's attorneys, that it's public record. So we do not want to disclose tax confidential information, which is a big no-no for the IRS. That's number one. And then number two, anybody's personal addresses, if those are disclosed, I think are I think people would appreciate not having personal information disclosed on the internet. So if we could ask Mr. Klutz, based on those reasons, and I mean, our promise, our guarantee that we're not planning to release any tax confidential information or personal identifying information. They're free to redact from us, from our view, that confidential information that they don't feel comfortable turning over, knowing that, you know, we're going to turn over the information so that it's publicly available.
And I'll stress to them that the goal is obvious
Yeah,
transparency.
I mean, I'm counting on them to redact their information.
Sure.
And that we will also, before we post anything, double check it. But I'm expecting that their statements, that's going to be quite a few documents for them to gather. And so it'll be difficult for them to, hopefully they'll catch everything, but I don't want to make it stressful either. I just want to be able to match up what's in the statements from the CFAs to the expenditures on the bank accounts.
Right.
And that we appreciated the receipts, but as far as regularly kept business records and being able to authenticate them, I think that was the main issue that I had with it. What about you, Tone?
I mean, I think that's fair. I think the public has certainly the right to know as much, but I in agreement on the issue of the redactions. But the public wants to know, and obviously this has been going on for a while, and it's time to get it over with. I'm sure they would prefer it over with, gauging from the email. So it'd be nice to be able to put this to bed,
Yeah.
in the next, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's overly optimistic, but I'd love to see it answered and done in 3 weeks or what have you till our next meeting.
Well, yeah, granted, they can make a response to us.
Yeah.
But,
Hopefully they can.
yeah.
Well, the big problem is, as a former auditor, is that a bank statement alone may or may not tell you anything. Because some banks now have bank statements that have copies of the checks that cleared, as part of the statement. Some banks don't. People keep and retain their, paper copy of their the check that may have cleared. So if we just get a bank statement and all it shows is X, Y, and Z was deposited and a list of all these checks that cleared, that's not gonna really tell us anything. We don't really know by seeing that who the $35,000 check actually went to. You understand what
Yeah,
I'm
but-
saying?
I don't know if they're obligated, if they wrote a check to a vendor for $35,000 and it's entered on the CFA as much, and we've got the information in the bank statement that shows that being processed, I think that's gotta be sufficient.
But we don't know that it's a legitimate company that they sent it to.
I understand, but essentially you would have to accuse them of money laundering.
Well,
And
if they're not willing
It's a
to show
political
us.
campaign. It's not a
Okay.
mafia
This
organization.
is a joke. I mean, this is really a waste of time. If we cannot, nobody wants to audit it, even if we don't see it, the three of you could see it and see who actually received those payments. You know, like what's the point?
Well,
They could write checks all day long to themselves and say that it was to, Mickey Mouse Strategies Company, and we wouldn't know.
But Alice, being recorded by the bank means that a transfer had to have occurred.
Yeah, but it
So
doesn't mean it was legitimate.
If it shows a
transfer.
check number written to a party, and that party is also what's recorded on the CFA, that's
But you won't know it's
verifying the
written to that
expenditure.
party. Most on the bank statement, it just shows a check number and a dollar amount. It doesn't say who it was written to.
But that's
all
what
that shows.
we asked for, is we want to know who these checks were written to.
Yeah,
only
but you won't
thing
know that from the bank statement.
I understand that, but
We might or might
we
not.
might be able to, I can pull up my P&C account and I know who the charges went to. And for the most part, it'll identify the vendor on a lot of those.
Not many.
I think what he's saying though, if you cross-reference.
If there's a check and they produce.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they
we saw a
produce-
check on the CFA for MDL Strategies, which nobody wants to find out who that is. They don't exist.
Well,
And for $35,000. Okay, we get a bank statement. It shows check number 101 for $35,000 cleared. Well, then what does that prove?
well,
That
but
doesn't prove anything from an auditor standpoint. It doesn't prove who MDL Strategies is, whether or not that's a legitimate expense, whether that check actually
agree
went
with
to
you.
his
I don't
daughter,
think
his
that
sister, or he
for
paid
that-
you.
for that
we don't
reason,
know.
Alice, I don't expect to close the investigation until I find out these questions that we still have. So I'm not looking to close this anytime soon. I want the information. I want to be able to process it. We can't look at it on our own and then meet and say, well, this is what I think. We have to do it all publicly, and we have to do it with the public present. So if we're going to have a chance to look at it, it's going to take some time. I'm not in any real hurry. I agree with you.
This is going on a year, so.
If a bank statement lists the
Several months
vendor.
ago, I asked you, as we were leaving, I want to know who MDL Strategies is, and you said, fine, I understand. And here it is months later, we still don't
And
know. That piece of paper they gave us obviously looks, in my opinion, illegitimate. That was generated. There's no address, there's no phone number, there's no name. It just says MDL Strategies Consulting Work, $35,000. Well, anybody could make that up. Mickey Mouse could
I agree
on
with
the
you.
computer. That's not, to me, as an auditor, I wouldn't accept that from a client who gave that to me as a supporting document. I wouldn't.
From what I'm hearing then, that's the main expense that you all are zeroing in on, is who is this consulting firm, or what is behind this consulting firm, and what was the nature of the business that they contracted for.
I think that's one of the more suspicious things.
Right.
I don't want to use the word suspicious. It might be all fine. But
Right.
also, if you get bank statements, you're going to be able to see, okay, the balance in there matches what they're putting on
Right.
their forms, and you can see if there's anything else crazy on there. It very well could all be fine. But I think bank statements would tell a lot. And a lot of them do include the check copies. We
They
don't
do.
know if this one will or not. But if they get a bank statement printed out, it, in my opinion, should be all pages. It shouldn't be like pages 1 through 7.
Yeah, it
and
shouldn't
then
be a
pages 7
summary
through
and
10
then
have got
have
the
black
check
lines through
copies.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
My expectation is, if they're writing a check, that's not secret information. That if they're writing a check to a vendor and we can identify who the vendor was, that should not be redacted, the name or information of the vendor. Now, if there's a personal person that's associated with it, their name should be known to the public, but I can't justify a reason that we would have to release their tax information
Well,
or
nobody's asking
their
for their
social.
tax information,
Well, but-
social security number.
Some of that stuff is oftentimes included. And if it's written on the check, there could be a
Well-
memo or a note written on the check. And that's what I'm most concerned about, again, is making sure that personal information for donors, either they're citizens who have voted, or they are vendors that have been paid, that kind of stuff.
Well, that would be receipts going in, but checks going out is not
Checks
going
going
to
out.
have the
I understand that.
MDL or
They should be able to
whoever's
disclose who their vendors are. So
Yes.
I'm expecting them not to be coy about who they paid $35,000 to, or so-and-so received this.
But they've been so coy about it for all this length of time. To me, as a former auditor, I'm gonna tell you, when somebody is not forthcoming and doesn't say, if I go and ask you, well, who's MDL strategies to a client I'm working on? They'll come right out and say, here it is, here's their, it belongs to John Doe or whoever, and they'll tell you. But when they keep bringing it back and trying to, keep the information from you, it kind of tells you that they're trying to hide something, is what it tells me.
I agree.
And so why? And that makes you more
And it
suspicious.
makes me suspicious.
Yes.
And for that reason, we don't go anywhere.
Mhm.
Right? Who's going to last longer, the government? Right. I would expect that somebody on this board is going to continue to look at that information, that we're going to continue to ask that question until it gets answered to our satisfaction. There's nothing else that
I mean, if it
I
were
feel
my
like-
campaign, if I were Mike
Right.
Moore and I was in his shoes and somebody asked me, who's MDL strategy, who's the other ones that we ask about, I can't remember their names right now, but the ones we ask about, I would just say, hey, look, that's so-and-so, he's over here, he's a friend, he has a personal consulting business, blah, blah, blah. I would tell you. But if you're not gonna tell me, then I think, what are you trying to hide? Whether it's Mike Moore or the judge or whoever, why? Why are you not forthcoming?
I think you're valid. I think that's a valid question.
And that's what I'm saying, we can get these bank statements in another year, by the time they drag their feet, we'll get them, but then they probably won't show us anything. They'll have a check number 202, $35,000 cleared on July 10th or whatever.
Right.
That's not, what's that gonna tell us? Nothing.
Again, our concern is the veracity of the information they provide us. We want to be
Yeah.
able to corroborate what they've
Well,
submitted.
that doesn't tell
And
you.
then if they have filed the official CFA, right, that's what they're legally obligated to do.
Mhm.
If they file that CFA, I expect that any questions that we have from the CFA are going to be answered by the bank statements. If the bank statements can't satisfy that, then we go back and we ask for more. I don't know what else we're going to be able to get out of them.
But I'm just saying, a dollar amount on the bank statement matching a dollar amount on the CFA doesn't
Right,
prove anything.
I agree with you. I didn't fall off a turnip truck.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm expecting to see who that check was written to and being able to back up or corroborate that they are the ones that received. Once that check cleared, they're free to do with it whatever they want. So I don't know what happened after that.
I'm not asking what
Right.
they did with the money, I'm just
Again,
saying,
I just want to
if
make
that
sure
was-
that if they recorded it on that spending form, on that CFA, that we can verify that that's where it went to.
if MDL Strategies is a legitimate company, if MDL is on the check.
In the
signature.
I mean, I
But
agree.
if they don't have an address on that invoice they gave us, they don't have a phone number, nobody wants to say who they are,
Right.
to me, the check cannot be written to MDL Strategies
Right.
because there is no such person. So the check would have to be written to whatever, Mary
Yeah.
Diane Lawford or whatever the MDL stands for. You know what I'm saying?
We don't know.
That's right.
Because
we
it's
don't
not a
know.
registered corporation, it doesn't have any other information that we've been able to publicly find or locate, so we don't know. And I agree with you. And we were talking about a $35 expense for sandwiches to MDL, right? Lunch.
Mhm.
Then I wouldn't worry about it as
Mhm.
much. But we're talking, there's a substantial number of zeros behind the number. So yes, it does create a
And
question.
broken up,
Yeah,
1 month at a time.
right. Well, the campaign's free to contract with who they want. They're free to contract and make an arrangement for payments however they choose. We're just asking, who is it? Right.
And we also asked, I can't even remember now, it's been a year, what we all asked for, but we asked for, did they file, 1099s for those individuals that work in his office, for the amount of money that they paid them. That's because in one time on the CFA report, it said consultant work, and another place it said staff. Well, if it's staff, they're an employee, then they should be filing, a W-2 and collecting FICA tax and everything else. And it didn't look like they were paying the IRS anything. So, I mean, there's just so many suspicious things. And it really bothers me the most is that everything could be on the up and up and wonderful and nothing wrong. And if that's the case, why are they dragging their feet and obviously not wanting to give us information for a whole year? An honest person wouldn't do that. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you.
Mhm.
I think both Ryan and Tony do too.
Mhm.
It's, what are they legally obligated to disclose to us? What are we legally permitted to seek? That's basically the contours of what I'm trying to figure out. This is different kind of territory than this board's usually dealt with. And so each time we do this, we have to try to get an opinion from IED. And they've been somewhat helpful on the request. Basically, they told us what's going to be a public record and what isn't a public record. You remember last year when we received that other information, and I was hesitant to see that it got released immediately because I don't want to get sued in my personal capacity for releasing information that I did while I was exercising my authority as a government person, right? But the three of us kind of open ourselves up to do that if we make the wrong move. And I like living at my house and not having to sell it or mortgage it for an attorney.
Well, it goes back to what we said at the very beginning, as far as, these people are required to turn in all these forms on certain times, twice a year, 3 times a year, whatever it is, to Ryan, but nobody looks at them, nobody audits them, so what's the point of even turning them in? And you said, you rely on the public,
It's a complaint
to ask questions and bring forward. But when the public does question it and come forward with, legitimate questions about various things, it's like, I don't know.
I know that it's slow,
Very
that you're
slow.
frustrated with the process, but that is the process. And that we
We're
can do
letting them
this.
get by with it all the time. Send it back for another month, send it back for another month, send it back for another month, and they'll just find another excuse to carry it on and on and on. So
The information that they provided with us, they were obligated to turn over. The stuff that they have brought up in the email, I don't disagree that there is tax confidential information that they need to
nobody's
be able
asking
to
for
keep
tax
private.
confidential information.
But oftentimes we touch documents and they go through our hands and we don't know what's on them, but we're responsible for what's on them. And so if they're going to send that to us, they need to be able to double check.
To speed up the process a little bit for everybody, I mean, I'm ready to make a motion to have Ryan negotiate or correspond with within those parameters to get,
Yeah,
to give him a little bit more flexibility instead of waiting on a meeting.
We brought the questions to you guys regarding this specific campaign, and you guys are trying to find answers and bringing them back to it. And you kind of indicated that you kind of have questions too. Have you three had any questions that you've asked them?
you have to remember,
Or
we can't
can you not
deliberate
do
or
that?
communicate on our own.
So you have to only.
Right, because you guys had sent us a Freedom of Information request about emails that we've had. I received one email from Mr. Klutz when that was originally filed, and it was simply to say, I'm sending more information today. And I said, thank you.
So
Please
you,
direct it to Ms. Cornett.
you guys can't
Yeah.
actually make any
No.
inquiries outside of what inquiries will be
No.
made to you.
Yeah, I'm not,
So
because the nature of our work has to be public, we can't make decisions, we can't make findings, we can't make deliberations without it being on the record. Well, there's no other way for us to be together unless we're at a regularly scheduled meeting or we request another meeting and send out notice so that the public knows to be available. So if we were going to schedule more than our regular monthly meeting, we could do that. At this pace, it's taken once a month. We've consistently dealt with this issue every month since it got filed. There has been slow progress, but it is still progress. And I'm not gonna put all my eggs in one basket and hope that we're gonna get this thing wrapped up. To me, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that they know that we are still requesting and that if they're filling out their 2025 and 2026s now and they're repeating what they're doing, then shame on them, because then they know that we've got a question, right? So we're gonna end up back here. and it's going to continue for them. I have a feeling that every time they have to write a check to Mr. Klutz and his law firm to answer these letters, that's costing them money. Would they rather pay him, or would they just rather spend it on a legitimate expense, signs, brochures, radio ads, television, whatever they want to do with it, right? Or continue to have to send paperwork back to the election board?
You said, without saying, it seems like there is some suspicion behind it without saying it looks suspicious. Is it up to us to tell you that it looks suspicious?
No.
Or when
I'm
did
telling you
somebody
that your
decide
questions,
whether
I
it's
think, are
suspicious?
valid, in my opinion,
Okay.
right? I don't think that you've asked questions that are out of line. So, and I think you have a right to raise them. And as the Clark County Election Board appointee, I'm glad to sit here and try to do the best I can to be your voice. That's why I've asked. And my issue is just the veracity of the documentation that we've received so far.
Because initially you said, and I brought it up before, that if you found something, that you had to report it to other prosecutors.
Send it to a law enforcement agency if necessary,
The
yeah.
last meeting, you said it was up to us to report that information to it.
No, I'm not saying it's
contradicted.
You can do whatever you choose,
Mhm.
right? It's a free country. So on your own, you are completely allowed to file a police report or make a report to a law enforcement agency based on your research, what you've discovered. For this board to make that determination, it would take a lot more for us to do something
So
like
at
that.
what point will you say, your questions are just.
That's like
going on
asking,
and
when did you
on,
see the
or-
crime
Yeah,
happen?
there is
Or when
something
did you
going on.
see this event occur? It's not, if you reach a reasonable suspicion or probable cause that something's happened, it doesn't necessarily happen all at once. It doesn't happen,
You said if
in front of you.
When you say
If a
you,
person-
me or you?
I'm talking about a legal standard. So we're talking about a reasonable person, right? Anybody that can think and knows the time of day and where they're located and situated in time and space, and they can think for themselves. If they believe that something has happened based on the information that's to them, then they may have reasonable suspicion or probable cause that a crime's occurred. I'm not saying that we've done anything like that. We haven't even touched on a process like that, right? If you believe that something like that happened, there is absolutely no reason why you could not prepare a packet of information and send it to a law enforcement agency for investigation. But I'm not making that recommendation to you, and I'm not telling you that that's what you should do. I can't. That would be terrible for us to make a recommendation like that. Because I'm not here to give you legal advice, right? You want legal advice, go hire your own attorney. That's how we deal with that kind of stuff.
Your legal advice is tell us how the process works.
Yeah, I can explain to the best of my knowledge what the big thick book, which contains the election code that they send us once a year, and how to read it and interpret it to the best of my ability as a layperson sitting here. And I know that I am an attorney and I practice law during my daytime, but that's a different job from this. And so that when I'm sitting here, I try to position myself like you. I'm a guy off the street that has no special knowledge or training. And so that if I was going to walk into a buzzsaw, I would want to know what's coming, right? I would want to have my head up, my eyes open, and see everything clearly in front of me as much as I could. So if I'm asking for this information for them, I'm trying to put myself in your position. Alice's question is valid. What's the veracity of this receipt that they've sent us? This could have been pulled off of any kind of documented template, whatever. Yeah, that's a good question. Back it up. If you're going to tell me that that's a receipt for a payment, show me the check, show me the money, right? So I think that's completely reasonable, and I think
Because they produced it. I mean, they produced the invoice, so therefore it's your right to say back it up.
exactly, and that's what we're doing.
And you kind of indicated, yeah, you would like to get an answer to.
Yeah, I don't think there's any disagreement between the three of us that, we've still got some questions about this.
Can I clarify what Tony said? So you're saying Ryan can kind of negotiate this, these
Well, he wants to
conversations with-
suggest it. I don't know if, we haven't formally voted on it.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to clarify what you meant. So I think what you were saying, though, is that if you all approve that process to go forward, that Ryan doesn't have to come back here in a month from now and say, this is what they responded with. He can actually go back and
Right,
forth a little bit to try to get the
Authorize him
statements.
to get the information and do it, so that we're not continuing to drag this out any farther. I would like to get this over with for everybody's sake, right?
Yeah.
You know, if there's something there, that's another matter. If there's not something there, great, let's all move on to the next thing.
Well,
As you point out, it's been a year.
Could I make a suggestion? Because I know how lawyers talk in legalese, you know, and are very specific about exactly dotting the I, across the T, and all that kind of stuff. And no offense to Ryan, but he's not a lawyer. And yet, if he sends this email back to them, maybe he didn't ask for it in quite the way that you would have, or quite the way to get the, are you following what I'm saying?
He's
So
gonna be
maybe-
looking at the same statute that we are.
I know, but
And-
what I'm saying is, if he drafts an email to reply to
Right.
Klutz, can he have one of the two of you as a lawyer look at it
Oh,
and say,
yeah.
hey, Ryan, you should reword this a different way, or ask for something more specific
Yes.
before he sends that
I think-
email, so we don't
yes.
keep going back and forth?
Yes, I mean, my expectation is if I second this and we vote and we basically make Ryan the lead on receiving and transferring questions and information, that it's just a group email chain that he'll CC us as it goes through.
Well, before it goes through, he'll CC you. to
Exactly,
get
the draft.
thing, is it
I
okay?
recognize, yes, it's probably easier for Ryan because this is his office with Angela. They're here to do that
Right.
on a regular basis. You know, Tony and I work for the county, but we have other full-time jobs.
Right.
And it's not necessarily the easiest thing for us to be able to sit down and pour through bank statements the same way.
No, I'm not asking you to do
Right,
that, I'm
yeah.
asking for the correspondence
Right.
back to Klutz.
And
That he drafts it, but you all look
Right.
at it before it's actually sent.
yes, I totally agree with you. And that would be my expectation. I don't think Ryan's lone gunning it. He's not,
if I did, I wouldn't be back.
I wouldn't hang him
a month
out
later
there to do that.
with this email.
Right, I wouldn't hang him out there to do that. I want to make sure that he's protected as the clerk as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's in complete consultation with us.
And you do have audit power, so if they don't want to voluntarily hand over their bank statements, you can actually launch an audit, which
I
you
know.
have a right to do, and then
But
they
I have to request
produce them.
I have to have a resolution and request as much from a bunch of politicians that sit on the commissioners board, right? So if we're gonna do anything, if we were gonna pay an accountant or we were gonna hire one, right, I have to request that. And that means we have to vote on a resolution between the three of us. It has to pass, and then we have to send it to the three of them who have to pass it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right. So,
We don't, and
there's nothing in our budget that entitles us, there's nothing in our
I feel we
budget
don't
that
have a lot
allows
of
us to
budgets.
do special audits, right? Those require accountants and attorneys to review.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, part of the reason why the process is slow, and I know that you're frustrated because it seems like we're playing nice, but I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do this above board and with all hands on the table so that people just give us the information we need so that you guys are satisfied and we can move on. I don't necessarily think they've committed any criminal acts, but I definitely don't know if they've given us all the information we want to see. If I was you sitting here and I've written that complaint, am I satisfied with the answer? No, I'm not, right? So at the same time, it's, as long as it takes, we're gonna be here and I'll still ask. So it's not like I'm trying to wrap this up and wash my hands of it. I think that should be clear to you all, that I'm not trying to hide anything or tuck it under a rug. It's a slow, necessary process because of the way that our board is structured. We can't meet privately to discuss this stuff. This is not what Tony and I talk about when we go to lunch.
I didn't know you all went to lunch.
Well, we do eat sometimes. They let us
I've never been
out.
invited.
Right, Ryan doesn't join us.
well, we'd have to post if you joined us.
Yeah, yeah, but it's not something that, you know, we've got plenty of other stuff to do. I don't have anything else to add. You all
Tell
probably
Mr.
tired of hearing me
Klutz
talk.
that, if he wants this to be resolved quickly, to give you the information we're asking for, and it'll be over with.
Yeah. I'll honestly say, Alice, I can see that you have training and expertise. Draft something, send it to Ryan, and let us review it and see if we can add it, punch it up, or no, we can't do that. See what IED might say about whatever you requested. Give us some time to look at it, and you can be involved in writing that letter. I don't have any problem doing that.
What do you think, Alice?
It'll take more time.
where are we going? Right? This is a
It's
tank
already
with
been
big
good,
trips,
so-
and
Ryan, what do you
it
think?
continues to roll on.
I'm down for, I'm down.
Yeah,
I plan on working on the
Sometimes think you're
email
all trying to wear
tomorrow.
us out, so we're done. We're done with it, you know. And that's what Klutz and them are doing, trying to wear these people out, give them as little as possible, piece at a time, piece at a time, piece at a time. So you wear them out and they just say, forget it and go on.
Well, he even said that, he goes, the government's always gonna be here. You guys
yeah,
are coming
I
up."
don't, you know,
And I've heard other politicians say the same thing. I mean, that time when they go,
yeah.
I've heard.
The goal here is it's the institution of the election board that they are answering to, not just the three people that are sitting here. So if we get more information, that's what they owe it. So I could be gone tomorrow, and I'm hoping that somebody else that replaced me in the future would want to do the exact same thing as you guys are asking us to. You've got legitimate questions, you haven't received the answers, I'm trying to get those for you as best as I can, without trying to get into the expense of hiring an accountant and an attorney and somebody else to look in the books and do an audit and all that stuff, because we'd have to have a resolution, vote on it, and then pass that to the commissioners to have them approve the expenditure, so. And none of those people work for free.
So I
Yeah,
did make
I
a
mean,
motion.
I'll second it, and we'll give Ryan the authority to act on our behalf with the PACs and the complaint to basically exchange information, gather information on our behalf, operating under the understanding that if you want us to check a question or if there's something, please share us with the emails or the letters that you want to send. Might not be a bad idea to actually put these in letter format and then send a digital copy of it.
Yeah.
Do you want Alice to submit it to him first? and
Yeah,
then
Alice,
do it?
you're free to, Alice.
I can try. I mean, we've given you everything we wanted in our complaint. It's all right there, and we really haven't got hardly any answers. So. Because they've never given you anything about whether all those people in his office that supposedly are, sometimes they're consultants on the CFA, sometimes they're staff.
Staff.
You know, are they being given W-2s, 1099s?
Right.
What?
I don't know if the designation of their job matters anything. I think the tax question is important, but then again, we're not gonna be able to ask those people whether or not they paid their taxes. That's kind of
Well, no,
beyond what
but
the
the-
election board is. But
the
if the
employer should
campaign
have a
issued
campaign
that,
should
right,
be
did you
paying.
issue them a W-2 or a 1099? I think
Mhm.
that's a legitimate question. Yeah.
Well, next month, we're bringing about 8 more.
If you have 8 more, we'll do it. It's all right. I mean, we got,
You know, I'm being sarcastic, right?
we're here
This is a
every
lot.
month as much as we can. You know, as long as somebody's health, not sick or something, we try to make these meetings as regular as possible, so.
Which I haven't been sick in a long time, so.
Well, but I get sick too. You're not the only person.
Well, you know, the fines that you said they would have to pay if they don't do this new thing by a certain period of time, $50 or whatever it was. There were fines in the past, if they don't file their CFAs on a timely basis. It was $10 a day or something like that, remember?
Right.
And when's the last time we've ever charged anybody for being late? Never,
Good question.
never. That's what I'm saying. The sad part
There are certain
is,
functions, though, as a board, we could just delegate that to the clerk and the election staff. We'd have to vote on it, but on day one, if somebody was overdue on their quarterly CFA report, their pre-primary report, that's gonna be an extra, $25, whatever we set the amount at. When you come in and file it, just bring your check, right? We could automatically authorize them to do that, or we would have to break each one of them down individually and give them an opportunity to come in and say why they were late.
When you say come
Let
in,
them defend themselves
Come into
rather
the-
than assess the penalty automatically.
Interrupt here. When you say come into the board,
Yeah, have
say
it
in
at a
front of the
meeting.
board and have
Right.
a hearing and explain themselves,
Right.
not just come in and explain it to Ryan
Right.
after they did it. Just
Basically show cause why you didn't have it in on time. Why was it an hour late? Why was it 2 days late? Why was it a week late? If
There
they
shouldn't
were,
be any excuses. They all know what the time is. If they're late, they pay the penalty, just like if,
I understand, Alice, but some of these folks are first-time runners that it's them and their wife, and if their wife was in the hospital while he was out trying to get elected at the same time for the trustee board, right? I don't want to penalize somebody because they had a family emergency that's legitimate.
That don't work
Right.
when I get pulled over by
That's
the
why-
police.
that's why we have
Or to the
discretion.
hospital.
Well,
It does in court.
officers do take a lot more discretion than you think, and that don't argue with the police, come and argue with the prosecutor, and you'd be surprised the difference that you get.
Thanks for
there
that tip,
shouldn't
I'll
be any
remember that.
excuses. You
Well-
know, they know that the deadline is, and here's what you do. You're not, like your IRS, if you don't file your tax return by April 15th, you're subject to a penalty.
Or
End of
you just
story.
request an extension after extension.
Well, no, you have
after
to do that
extension.
before April 15th.
I understand that, but even if you did it after April the 15th, they're gonna let you have the extension.
Well, they
you
will,
will
but
submit
there's still penalties
documentation.
for not paying and
I
penalties
get
for
it.
not filing. So,
You know who pays those penalties?
Mhm.
Schmucks like us, W-2 people. Rich people never pay them. So remember, if they've got the money,
I
they ain't
don't
gonna
believe
pay it.
that.
Yeah,
Rich
well, I'm
people-
not trying to be cynical about it,
Mhm.
but saying that there's a bright line
But what I'm
on
saying
how that
is,
punishment is
there are
meted out
penalties,
doesn't
or
get
you
it.
might as well not have penalties, because I don't think you've charged anybody in years a penalty.
Honestly, the issue hasn't come up. I'm sure that there are people that have gotten their paperwork in late, but we try to work it out and say, get it to us as soon as possible. And usually within 48 hours, most of those folks get their stuff into us on time.
There are more people checking now. They're
Yes.
available online.
The technology helps greatly.
And that, yeah, and it's easier to do now with the fancy thing.
Was that keyboard?
That was a keyboard, sorry.
The easy vote system.
Keyboards aren't that new.
They don't really let
Oh,
them use.
thank you. All right, did we end up voting on that?
I seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
So we'll approve that and look forward to hearing more updated information from Ryan. Obviously, we'll supplement as we go forward. I'm looking at our calendar, and our next regularly scheduled meeting should be July the
21st.
21st. 4:45, the usual time. Is that working?
Best of my knowledge, I believe. Move to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
All
for
right,
your
guys.
time.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.